verse 1 to 21. Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 21. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva
Divim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Ojayam Udhirayet.
Udhirayet.
Starting with text 21. Vidyante Hridaya Grantis. Chidyante Sarva Samshaya. Vidyante Chasya Karmani. Just Evat Manishware. One more time. Vidyate Hridaya Grantish. Chidyante Sarva Samshaya. Vidyante Chasya Karmani. Drishta Evat Manishware. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as the master. Purport. Attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously as far as the identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned. There are a number of speculations and misgivings. The materialist does not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and the empiric philosophers believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without individuality of the living beings. But the transcendentalists affirm that the soul and the supersoul are two different identities, qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. There are many other theories, but all these different speculations are at once cleared off as soon as Sri Krishna is realized in truth by the process of bhakti yoga. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. As soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and living beings is at once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as the super soul. Paragraph. In the Bhagavad Gita 10:11, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Therefore, because of the personality of Godhead's taking charge of illuminating the heart of his devotee, certainly a devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness. He comes to know everything of the absolute and the relative truths. The devotee cannot remain in darkness, and because a devotee is enlightened by the personality of Godhead, his knowledge is certainly perfect. This is not the case for those who speculate about the absolute truth by dint of their own limited power of approach. Perfect knowledge is called parampara, or deductive knowledge coming down from the authority of the submissive oral receiver, or to the submissive oral receiver, who is bona fide by service and surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and know him also at the same time. He reserves the right of not being exposed to such a challenging spirit, of an insignificant spark of the whole, a spark subjected to the control of illusory energy. The devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from the personality of Godhead to Brahma and from to his sons and disciples in succession. The process is helped by the Supersoul within such devotees. That is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. The final paragraph. This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotees to distinguish spirit from matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankara, and it falsely obliges the living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore, all the clouds of doubt are at once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendent loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. In material existence, a living being creates his own chain of fruitive work and enjoys the good and bad effects of those actions, life after life. But as soon as he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from the chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction. Prabhupada's gift for writing is just astounding. Besides the choice of words, the flow of thoughts, the making a connection between this, that, and the other, as one becomes familiar with scripture, the masterfulness of Prabhupada's connecting this and that and the other thing so smoothly and palatably and understandable. It's just astounding. A little more appreciation. Prabhupada's picture, those of you that have been to Vrindavan, he's sitting in that little room at the Radha Damodar temple. It's a little room. And he's writing for the world. He's not been around and about in the world, but he's writing for the world that doesn't know anything about anything. Or they think they know something, but they really don't know anything. So you have different categories of audiences. And it's so easy to understand. And authoritative. So it's not just, okay, I get it, but in addition, the authority behind. Persons that are reading these purports don't know the scriptural references. And the earlier, this first canto, he minimally makes specific reference to specific passages from specific texts. Purposely. Because it's a new audience. They don't know anything about anything. So it's reason. And authoritative statements, strong, but very reasonable statements. like this explanation of false ego, the knot that ties the soul to an illusory conception that the medium is false ego. And whether you do it this way, that way, or the other way, modes of nature and free will choices and so on, false ego continues. And because of false ego, therefore identification with the illusory conception of self being the covering, body and mind, and misidentification, carrying the living entity, birth after birth after birth, up and down and sideways, birth after birth, no end. He's describing the process of Bhagavad Dharma as deductive as opposed to inductive. Inductive meaning the reasoning process. You inductively conclude such and such. You admit there's a premise, and you stretch the premise and speculate on the premise, and then it's supposed to encompass the absolute truth. The absolute truth is not approachable by that method. Utmost, the definition by negation. Not this, neti. But the absolute truth is not this, not this, not this, not this. What is it? It's not this. If it's not this, then what is it? That. What's that? The absolute truth. So here there's qualities. So the absolute truth has no qualities. Definition by negation. Here there's form. Absolute truth has no form. And so forth. So it's the speculative method to approach the absolute truth. But the absolute truth isn't approachable that way. A feature of the absolute truth can be presumed, but it's not exactly a realization, it's just a presumption. That's the inductive method. And he gives another, but and then there's unlimited numbers of other. And how do you go beyond that? And it's very, very clear. It's Bhagavad Dharma. Yesterday evening made reference to 112 Bhagavatam. I'll go back and read 112. This is 1:2:21. 112. The last line I want to focus on. See the last line, we go back and read the whole thing. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Now the Supreme Lord is already established within the heart. That's Paramatma. But the Paramatma feature and the individual soul both are covered. One doesn't recognize who we are, one doesn't recognize who the Supreme is. One is presuming falsely. The covering is everything. And that's illusion. And identifying with that is through the medium as false ego. So that's the knot that holds one in illusion. Our dear friend. False ego. So hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, that's what's being said in 112 is expanded in this chapter 2. The process of hearing. Srinivata Sokata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana, Ridyantakso Yubhadrani Vidunoti Saritsata, etc., etc., etc. The verses prior to this one, and the text 21. And text 21 is saying, it's describing the effect of having taken up that Bhagavad Dharma process of hearing back, to 112. Here's the translation of 112. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart, meaning the modes of nature and karma are completely wiped away. But how do you wipe away karma and the modes of nature? By contact, by Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and its recitation. The highest truth in reality is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Fantastic phrase. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. That's the Bhagavatam. And speaking, so we're just, small number of us sitting in a little room here. How is this for the welfare of all? Well, everything starts with the seed. So the seed is bhakti lata, bija, the seed of bhakti lata. And by watering the seed and nurturing the seed grows and grows and grows. And then all of us, to one extent or another, will be interacting with other people. And the consciousness of Krishna consciousness impacts others, knowingly, unknowingly, explicitly, implicitly. The seed starts to grow and grow and grow and grow. Just yesterday, somebody sent me a little incredible story. Here's just quickly narrate. It's nice, very nice. Russia and the Ukraine are at war with each other. So one young man was met by a devotee who gave him Bhagavad Gita. And the soldier who was conscripted because he was forced to join the army had his Bhagavad Gita in his vest pocket, his bulletproof vest pocket. And he went to war, he got hit with a bullet. And I didn't exactly understand the description, but he was wounded apparently by other bullets, but the bullet that was headed for his chest got embedded in the Bhagavad Gita. This little thing showed, the images of the pages, of the introductory pages of Bhagavad Gita with the cyclic succession. And when I got to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the bullet was right in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's picture. Bhagavad Gita saved his life. And one can imagine that young man is now going to be reading Bhagavad Gita very carefully. So it doesn't have to happen like that, but it can happen like that. And the seed of transcendental sound vibration can save our life from repeated birth and death, in the sense that the cycle of birth and death can be, it's not snap your fingers and it's done. You get Bhagavad Gita and no more birth and death. But the process, try to understand, to probably repeating Prabhupada's words, try to understand, try to understand, try to understand, don't accept blindly, try to understand, and then live your life accordingly. So it starts with trying to understand. So Prabhupada is presenting Srimad Bhagavatam to the world. And sure enough, the Bhagavatam has been translated into so many different languages. So the whole world could receive at least the opportunity of termination of material existence through sound. Maybe some bullets too. The coverings are supported by false ego. Say it the other way. When false ego, when that wonderful day comes that false ego is dissolved, the coverings are also dissolved. And when the coverings are dissolved and false ego is dissolved, one can see the self. Let's go back to the verse, text 21. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self, not capital S self, but self as master. Now, the self with a small s is master. That's the self with a capital S. But as opposed to false ego, seeing the self as master means that the real self is this spirit soul, and the spirit soul is part and parcel of the supreme, the tiny spark of a big fire. Nice examples, a drop of water in the ocean. We're part of something much bigger than us, but not just, atoms of matter, combinations of matter. It's the animating force within. And how is that to be cleared off? So, Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. By rendering service to the book and the person Bhagavat. This chapter 2 is really good. Foundational teachings. And misgivings are cut to pieces because false ego is cut to pieces. And then seeing the self as master. And then, the choices that one makes in life follow the master. What's real self-interest, or what's real happiness, what's real anything? Reality distinguished from illusion. There's lots of avenues and methodologies that people have at their disposal today that comes under the generic brand of spirituality, but without understanding the absolute truth coming in this descending fashion, etc., etc. It's another version of illusion, more or less. Just like the neti, not this, okay? And how do you stay put in the not this, not this? There's no shelter there. You can't stay. So after however long, one will come back again to having souls have desire, and the desire to be an enjoyer, and the enjoying tendency can be anesthetized by neti, but when the anesthesia wears off, then what? Because desire is still there, because the soul is still there. It's impermanent method, because there's no shelter. So just one more time. By hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the shelter whereby the Supreme Lord becomes established as an irrevocable fact. That's nice language. He's already there, but forgotten. And by hearing, the covering is cleared, and he becomes established as an irrevocable fact. That means he can't go back. When one has that shelter in the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, then the shelter in the Supreme Person is restored. And having restored, you can't go back. You don't want to go back. Desire is now cleansed. And desire is still there, but you don't want to go back. I'll read a couple passages from the purport again, and then we'll to questions. There's 3 paragraphs in the purport. The beginning part, opening line. Attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously. So the focus goes to the source, Krishna. And by focusing on trying to understand or hear or make that Krishna connection, simultaneously the self is seen, understood, which means in either case, the covering has to be removed because the covering is blocking both, seeing the Supreme, seeing ourselves, seeing reality as distinguished from illusion. There's something blocking, the illusion is blocking. So the power is there within the message of the Bhagavatam to remove that illusion. That's from the previous verses. Nashtaprayeshu, Abhadreshu, etc. The next part of that paragraph is there are other ideas besides reality. Listen, we went through some of that already. He's making a metaphor saying Krishna is like the sun. When the sun rises, darkness is dispelled. Of course, the sun sets, and then darkness comes back again. But if one has the shelter of that supreme sun, or the sun-like personality of Godhead, so the eternal relationship with the personality of Godhead restored by this restoration process, by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, then it's a permanent situation. Second paragraph is Prabhupada's making reference to Bhagavad Gita 10:11, where Krishna's saying the same thing in Bhagavad Gita. He switches the light on for his devotee. So he doesn't force the light upon others, but for the devotee approaches him through practice, and he switches the light on. So then one can see him, can see self, and one can see all things properly. But that's reciprocation with those who take shelter of Krishna. Back to the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is taking shelter. In different degrees that it's understood or not understood. But it's the process of just like a dimmer switch. Most switches in homes are just on and off. It's 1 or a 0. But there's another kind of switch that becomes brighter or becomes dimmer. Move the dial and it changes, or the little button, and it goes brighter, 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 and then dimmer, dimmer, dimmer. So there's a dimmer switch in awakening of our transcendental consciousness, but as much as transcendental consciousness is awakened, darkness can't stand. Krishna is that light. He's the sun-like person. When the awareness of Krishna arises from this hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, that understanding Krishna cannot be accomplished as long as one is engaged in sinful activities, and therefore there's standard over and over and over and over 4 pillars of sinful activities. And so even persons that are engaged in those ways, they can become benefited, but to get the full light, it has to become free from these four basic pillars and full activities. And then cultivate and cultivate and cultivate. And the light of the sun, like light of Krishna, becomes awakened, and the darkness is dispelled, and all these other corollary anomalies or unwanted things, anarthas, abhadras, they're dissipated by light. You just stay focused on trying to understand Krishna and hear about him. In the final paragraph again, it's just this focus on ahankar. The factor that keeps the whole material show going is a false ego. You can't just get a dagger out and stab false ego to death. It doesn't work. It has to be dissolved. And the dissolving agent is this spiritual topics of Krishna, the science of Krishna, Prabhupada would like to call it. Very nice. Yesterday I was in Baltimore, and a little conversation at the end, husband and wife spoke. They're well underway to completing their Srimad Bhagavatam target for Bhadra Purnima this year. I was really surprised. 250 Bhagavatam says. 250. Baltimore. Little Baltimore. Single baby compared to Potomac. I don't know what the plan for Potomac is. But light of the Bhagavad. Of course, after people receive the book, is to read the book. And then some strategy to read the book as well as receive the book. But it start with having people receive the book. And some people are going to be more inclined, some people less inclined. It's okay. Prabhupada's statement is just having the Bhagavatam on your shelf purifies and sanctifies your home. Just see it on the bookcase. You get more benefit. And then open up the pages and read. So then there's such benefit that comes, and some persons like to read. And some persons like the light that comes from the Bhagavad. Their life changes. It's magical. So we do our part. We receive, we give, we encourage. Switch on the light. That's the benefit for this dark age of coming. Exactly what the Bhagavatam says. That's one of the 6 questions in this dark age of Kali. What's the cure? Okay, let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. A couple of questions. In the first paragraph, it says that the relative truths that were hidden will be revealed. That relative truths means it's a relationship between the soul and the super soul. Relative truth.
Your voice is so soft I couldn't hear almost anything. Did you hear it, Shankadari? Could you repeat?
So in the first paragraph of the purport, it says that the relative truths will be revealed. So what is the meaning of relative truth? Is it soul and super soul?
Well, relative truth means something in relation to another thing is a relative truth. So this world is a relative reality, and one can understand this world and the reality of this world by switching on the light. One can see things as they are. So that's relative truth. One thing is relative to another thing. And that's the world in which we find ourselves. So my understanding of that sentence is that when the illumination of Krishna consciousness comes, then one can understand this relative world as well as the spiritual reality. That's my understanding. More? Huh?
It's
You go ahead, you got the microphone.
And the thing is, the false ego about the last paragraph. So that is the knot.
Yeah.
Trying to practice what I'm trying to hear. Understand. But at times, maybe many times, it feels that maybe in the third canto, Devahuti asks the questions, Mother Devahuti. Is it possible that
Yeah.
is it really possible?
Yes.
That I'm very tightly attached to my false ego. It feels sad that I'm not able to completely follow what I'm hearing. So I just want to hear from you.
Well, Kapil answers yes. And then he says in his answer, Bhakti is the medium that dissolves the false ego. So rather than, one should be honest in recognizing I'm still attached. Cosmetic, unattached is not wanted. Honest acknowledgement, that's wanted. And then what? So same as Devahuti's asking this question, what about you? But she's asking the question and the answer is there. So the focus rather than I'm insufficient, focus on it should go to bhakti because that's sufficient. And to say I'm not there yet, that's okay. Focus on bhakti. And then what does that mean? Focus on bhakti. It means the things that make up your life, my life, your life, each of us. We do those things we strive to do those things with the intention that Krishna should be pleased. We exercise our bhakti muscle. Every day, every day, every day, every day. False ego says you're the doer, or I'm the doer. So it's not like do it. It's, you carry out that, it's an important detail. You carry out what you've heard to your capacity, and at the same time feeling oneself dependent upon Krishna to A, carry it out, and B, receive the intended benefit. Both. Dependent, not on the doer. Through the agency of false ego. Because then there's benefit, but it's reduced. So that's the cultivation of bhakti. We'll say the same thing, different way. Is it possible that one can engage in bhakti and keep myself at the center? It's self-centeredness. So it's not pure bhakti, but it's very common. We had this whole like 3 classes on that one topic, and that only on that, but it kept coming up. Self-centeredness. I call it the 2-pocket program. So much for Krishna, so much for me. So much for Krishna, so much for me. Krishna, Krishna, me, me. The 2-pocket program. Common. I mean, Krishna's in the picture, but I'm in the picture too. The false ego. So what's life like when there's no false ego? 1-pocket program. So we cultivate. Although we're conditioned that, by your acknowledgement, by false ego. We're conditioned, for sure, not just you. But, we're more or less aware that the 2-pocket program is what we're doing. I do something because I get something. Relative mentality, even in the realm of the house of bhakti. When I know that that's not what bhakti is, I do it anyways because our dear friend, false ego, drives me in that direction. Then he acknowledges it in honesty, and then what do? You strive that Krishna should be exclusively Ananya Bhak, undivided devotion. So that's our cultivation. Just stay with it. Remaining honest, and then if you're not attentive, then it's really easy to be complacent. And just business as usual, and life goes on. And it's less misery than without Krishna Bhakti. There's difficulty, but it's less. And the nature of it is different. Then, so to keep going to the place where Devahuti is asking, it's emphasis on Bhakti. That's Anukalyena Krishna Shivana, by definition. We cultivate that. Although we're not there yet, we cultivate that. That's the Bhakti principle. A to Z, it starts with our hearing, and you can even say it starts with the holy name. But hearing Krishna Katha, what we're doing right now. Not about my liberation. I mean, just, in a conditioned sense, it's about my liberation. I don't like to suffer. This is a way to reduce suffering or stop suffering. I like it. I do it because I find it's true. Or the other way, if I slacken, it gets worse. So I don't like slacken. I don't like the worst, so I don't try to not slacken. Anyway, but bhakti is beyond, stopping the miseries. Yeah.
So, Maharaj, just want to have understanding. Following the disciplic succession itself is that one of the means to answer the removing of ahankara.
Yeah. But then what does following mean?
Following in the sense the
But I'm just saying it. Following means applying. Living one's life according to this descending order of life. Living one's life. And we do it more or less. but not complete. So following means getting to the state where it's complete. I'm just making that what's following me. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes.
Just one extension of the question. If the impersonalists also they have their own disciplic succession, and they also follow their principles.
So that's not what's the source of the specific succession implies the source. Everyone is following somebody. In philosophy, in politics, in anything you can think of. There's this, so what's the source of that following? Okay.
Hey, Krishna Maharaj, I have a question. How will the covering get lifted through reading the Bhagavatam? And will reading it repeatedly help?
Yes. Well, how is by spiritual power. Spiritual power overcomes material power. Spiritual power is greater. It overcomes the material power of illusion is overcome by the spiritual power of light or knowledge. So there are different ways to see, metaphorical ways or language ways of describing ajnana and jnana. So illusion is ajnana, without knowledge. Then you bring in knowledge and it destroys ajnana because knowledge is more powerful than ignorance. So that's how, by the light of the Bhagavad, by transcendental light, it destroys darkness of illusion. And will hearing regularly? Yeah. Hearing regularly for several reasons. One is our conditioned tendencies are very strong. Supposing I hear one day and then for 7 days I don't hear, and then another one day, so it's those 6 days in between, darkness is prevailing. So we hear regularly. Something else? Okay.
As you were saying that how Srila Prabhupada's teachings are like writing is really, really wonderful. It's really, whenever I read, I can feel that there is a the ignorance is getting removed. But this awakening of knowledge, is it a realized knowledge? Because when I read, I can feel that and and get some realization, but I won't be able to keep up with that realization. Does that mean that it is working, or I don't know?
I think I got it. So why and what to do? Yes? Conditioned tendency. What to do? Practice. Abhyasa. Like his question. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Itantasya dhritaratam. Katayantasya mandityam. Turshanticha ramanticha. So the spiritual tendency is within us, but covered. So we need to practice regularly the spiritual, and then the covering can be removed, and then the spiritual kicks in, or shines. And then it becomes spontaneous, not just regulative, but spontaneous. And then from spontaneous, it becomes bhava and prema. I mean, that's coming attractions, right? So continue with sadhana or abhyasa. And then abhyasa is defined. You don't need to do that. You know what it is. Anything else? Yes?
This question is from yesterday's class. Yesterday you mentioned about being simple and austerities that helps one to overcome the
Yesterday evening class.
yesterday. So I think you mentioned that your thought on simplicity, being simple is one has gratitude, helps one to keep simple. So gratitude is the essence that you mentioned. So how one knows that one is slackening with the gratitude, and if one is then
Because how you know is your attention starts to wander. When gratitude is there, even you're engaged in different features of life in the course of the day or the course of life, it stays there. Attention stays because there's something moving it. Attention. That's how we know. You're distracted. And then the topic from yesterday evening, problem solving. One can be so much absorbed in problem solving, and there's no end to problems. The gratitude or the purpose, the higher purpose of life, this simplicity matter becomes very complex. And I get lost. And it may take a while before I realize that I'm lost. I don't know where I am.
So if that happens, how to situate back?
You hit the reset button. Step back. Go into a mode of goodness reflection space. And, ask a few questions. What's going on here? What happened? And what is that higher purpose? And you can refocus, then move forward again with the right purpose and mindfulness, etc. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.